The Last Stand. Commander Sarah Chen stood at the helm of the U.S. Resilient, her dark eyes fixed on the tactical display, showing an impossible number of Dominion warships emerging from hyperspace. Each vessel gleamed with the characteristic obsidian-like material that had earned them the nickname Shadow Fleet among human forces. The display kept counting upward. 30 ships, 40, 50. Status report, she ordered, keeping her voice steady despite the growing knot in her stomach. Lieutenant Marcus Rivera's fingers flew across his console. 73 Dominion warships detected, Commander. Their energy signatures match Ravager-class destroyers. They're forming an attack pattern around New Haven Colony. New Haven, the last human colony world. Home to 3 million civilians who had fled Earth after the Dominion's devastating first strike. Chen's jaw tightened as she watched the enemy ships move into position with mechanical precision. All hands to battle stations, she commanded. Lieutenant Kira, begin civilian evacuation protocols. How many transport ships are currently planetside? Lieutenant Yuki Kira's response came swiftly. 4 colony ships, Commander. Maximum capacity 8,000 each. They've begun loading procedures, but she hesitated. Even at full capacity, they can only evacuate 32,000 people. The unspoken truth hung heavy in the air. They couldn't save everyone. Not even close. Engineering, what's the status of the phase shift drive? Chen asked, turning to her chief engineer's holographic projection. Dr. Elena Santos appeared as a flickering blue image, her lab coat stained with coolant fluid. The prototype is stable, Commander, but untested in combat conditions. We have enough power for maybe 3 jumps before the containment field fails. The phase shift drive was humanity's last hope. Experimental technology that could theoretically allow a ship to exist slightly out of phase with normal spacetime. If it worked, they'd be virtually invisible and untouchable. If it failed, they'd be scattered across multiple dimensions. Dominion fleet is launching fighters, Rivera reported. First wave approaching colony defense platforms. Chen studied the tactical display, her mind racing through options. The Resilient was Earth's most advanced warship, but it was still just 1 ship against 73. Their only advantage was that the Dominion didn't know about the phase shift drive. Load all missile tubes with quantum warheads, she ordered. Target their command ship. Lieutenant Rivera, plot a course directly through their formation. Her bridge crew turned to look at her with a mixture of shock and determination. A frontal assault against superior numbers was suicide by any tactical analysis. Commander, Rivera started, their energy weapons will tear through our shields before we get halfway. They're expecting us to run, Chen interrupted. To play defensive, try to hold them off while the evacuation proceeds. That's exactly why we're going to attack. She straightened her uniform. This ship is called the Resilient for a reason. Humanity has lost enough. We stop running today. The bridge crew snapped to attention, their training taking over despite their fears. Helm, full power to forward shields. Dr. Santos, prepare the phase shift drive, but do not engage until I mark. Communications, broadcast this message to New Haven. Hold fast. Help is coming. The Resilient's engines hummed to life, its revolutionary quantum core providing power that would have been impossible just a few years ago. Chen watched as the distance to the enemy fleet decreased rapidly. Dominion ships are launching their main weapon arrays, Rivera reported tensely. Impact in 30 seconds. Hold course, Chen commanded. Weapons, target their command ship's primary reactor. Time on target with all tubes. The space between the ships lit up with Dominion energy weapons, streams of concentrated plasma that could vaporize conventional warships. The Resilient's advanced shields flared brilliant blue under the assault. Shields at 60% and falling, Kira reported. Multiple hull breaches on decks 3 through 7. Distance to target, Chen demanded. 15,000 kilometers in closing, Rivera answered. We're within optimal firing range. Chen allowed herself a small smile. Fire everything we have. Dr. Santos, engage phase shift drive now. The Resilience missile tubes erupted, launching their full complement of quantum warheads just as Dr. Santos activated the experimental drive. Reality seemed to blur around them as the ship partially phased out of normal spacetime. The Dominion's return fire passed harmlessly through their semi-phased hull. Their sensors, designed to track normal matter, suddenly lost lock on the human vessel. The quantum warheads, launched before the phase shift, streaked toward their target. The Dominion command ship's defenses activated too late. Multiple detonations rippled across its hull, creating cascading quantum reactions that tore the massive vessel apart from the inside. Direct hits, Rivera shouted triumphantly. Command ship's reactor is going critical. Chen watched as the enemy vessel broke apart, its destruction creating confusion in the Dominion fleet's perfectly coordinated formation. But there was no time to celebrate. Phase shift drive status, she demanded. Dr. Santos' hologram flickered worryingly. Containment field is destabilizing, Commander. We have maybe 2 minutes before total failure. Route all power to the drive, Chen ordered. Helm, get us clear of the battle zone. Lieutenant Kira, status of the evacuation. First transport ship is away, Kira reported. 3 more preparing for launch, but Commander, Dominion forces are regrouping. They're targeting the colony directly now. Chen's hands gripped the command rail until her knuckles turned white. They'd bought some time, destroyed the enemy command ship, but it wasn't enough. The remaining Dominion vessels would still overwhelm them. Unless, Dr. Santos, what would happen if we detonated our quantum core while phase shifted? A moment of stunned silence followed before the engineer responded. Theoretically, the reaction would spread across all the phase states we're currently occupying. It would create a cascade effect, pulling anything nearby into a quantum singularity. But Commander, that would mean... Plot a course into the heart of the enemy fleet, Chen interrupted. All hands, prepare to abandon ship, get to the emergency pods and set course for New Haven. I'll handle the detonation sequence. Commander, Rivera protested. The autopilot can handle. Someone needs to ensure the timing is perfect. Chen cut him off. That's an order, Lieutenant. Get to your pod. One by one, her bridge crew reluctantly complied, each stopping to salute before heading to the evacuation points. Chen watched them go, then turned back to the tactical display. The Dominion ships were reorganizing, preparing to resume their attack on the colony. They thought they had humanity beaten. They thought this was the end. They were wrong. Dr. Santos, begin quantum core overload sequence. Route all safeties through my command codes. As emergency klaxons blared and evacuation pods launched from the Resilience hull, Commander Sarah Chen plotted her final course. The phase shift drive hummed around her, reality flickering at the edges of her vision. One ship against an empire. But sometimes, that's all it takes. Let's show them why you never corner a human, she whispered, and pushed the engines to full power. Silent Hunter. The quantum explosion that should have destroyed the U.S. Resilient instead did something unprecedented. As Commander Chen watched the blinding light engulf her ship, the phase shift drive's containment field collapsed in exactly the right way at exactly the right moment. Instead of creating a devastating singularity, it threw the vessel into a permanent state of quantum flux. 3 months later, the Resilient drifted silently through the debris field of another Dominion supply convoy. The ship's hull seemed to flicker between states of existence, sometimes almost transparent, other times solid enough to cast shadows in starlight. Status of the quantum signature dampeners, Chen asked, studying the tactical display where the wreckage of 3 Dominion freighters slowly spun in the void. Dr. Santos, now serving as both chief engineer and science officer, checked her readings, holding stable at 0.3% detection threshold. As far as their sensors are concerned, we're just another piece of space debris. The accident had changed everything. The Resilient now existed in a perpetual state of phase shift, making it virtually invisible to conventional sensors. They could still interact with normal space when needed, but could also slip between the dimensions of reality like a ghost ship from ancient maritime legends. "Commander," Lieutenant Rivera called from his station, "I'm picking up encrypted Dominion communications. They're spreading word about the Phantom Raider. That's the 7th supply convoy we've hit this month." Chen allowed herself a small smile. After the battle at New Haven, the Dominion had claimed total victory, announcing the destruction of humanity's last warship. They never expected that same ship to become their worst nightmare. "What's the status of the salvaged supplies?" she asked, turning to Lieutenant Kira. "We've transferred most of the critical materials to our cargo holds," Kira reported, "including enough quantum plasma to keep our core running for another 3 months. The rest has been tagged for pickup by the resistance cells on Outpost 7. The resistance, small groups of survivors and sympathetic alien species who had seen through the Dominion's propaganda. The Resilient's successful raids had given them hope, proving the supposedly invincible empire could be hurt. "Dr. Santos, any progress on stabilizing our phase state?" Chen asked, walking to the science station. The engineer shook her head, her holographic form flickering slightly. "The quantum flux is too deeply embedded in the ship's structure now, but I've made some interesting discoveries about how it affects Dominion technology. Their quantum lock systems actually make them more vulnerable to our attacks, not less." "Explain," Chen prompted, intrigued. "Their technology is so advanced it's actually inflexible," Santos continued. "They rely entirely on quantum state interactions, but we can operate outside those states. It's like trying to catch smoke with a net. Their weapons and sensors simply pass through us when we're out of phase." "Multiple contacts," Rivera suddenly announced. 3 Dominion cruisers just dropped out of hyperspace. They're launching fighters." Chen moved quickly to her command position. "Looks like they're learning." "How many fighters?" 36 contacts, Rivera reported. "They're spreading out in a search pattern." "Wait, they're deploying some kind of new scanning technology." "I see it," Santos confirmed, her fingers dancing across her console. "They're trying to detect phase-shifted matter. Clever, but," she smiled, "they're looking in completely the wrong quantum states. They still don't understand how we survived." Chen watched the tactical display as the Dominion fighters swept the debris field with their new sensors. The Resilient remained undetected, hiding in plain sight by existing slightly out of sync with normal spacetime. "Keep monitoring their scan patterns," Chen ordered. "Let's see what else they've developed to try and catch us." The bridge crew worked in focused silence, gathering valuable intelligence on their hunters. Over the past months, they'd developed into something more than just a warship crew. They were survivors, ghosts, the last free humans fighting against an empire that thought them extinct. "Commander," Kira spoke up, "I'm intercepting more communications. The Dominion, they're offering a reward for information about us. They're calling us the Human Phantom now." She paused, reading further. "The bounty is enough to buy a small planet." "Good," Chen replied, surprising her crew. "It means we're hurting them. They wouldn't waste resources trying to catch a ghost if we weren't causing real damage." "Speaking of damage," Santos interjected, "I've been analyzing the data from our recent raids. There's something interesting about how their ships react when we forcibly phase shift their quantum cores. If we could replicate that effect on a larger scale." "File a full report," Chen ordered. "Right now, we need to focus on getting these supplies to the Resistance. Lieutenant Rivera, plot a course that keeps us in the shadow of that largest wreck. We'll let our friends in the cruisers waste time and energy searching while we slip away." As the Resilient glided silently through space, Chen reflected on how far they'd come. Their supposed death had become their greatest advantage. The Dominion had grown complacent in their victory, never imagining that their greatest threat would come from a ship that technically didn't fully exist in normal space anymore. "New contact," Rivera announced suddenly. "Small vessel, definitely not Dominion design. It's broadcasting on an old Earth frequency." Chen straightened in her chair. Source: coming from the edge of the system, Rivera reported. They're using a modified version of our old emergency protocols. Message reads, to the human phantom, we need your help. The resistance is ready to strike back. The bridge crew looked to their commander. They'd been surviving, harassing the enemy, gathering intelligence. But this could be the opportunity they'd been waiting for. Verify that signal's authenticity, Chen ordered. If it's genuine, we might have just found our chance to do more than just haunt the Dominion's nightmares. We might be able to wake the whole galaxy up to fight back. The Resilient turned silently, its quantum-shifted hull reflecting distorted starlight as it prepared to answer the call. They were no longer just survivors or raiders. They were becoming something else, a symbol of hope in a galaxy that had thought hope was dead. The hunt was about to evolve into something much bigger. The Alliance. The Resistance base wasn't much to look at. A collection of asteroids hollowed out and connected by makeshift tunnels. But to Commander Chen, walking through its corridors alongside beings from a dozen different species, it represented something profound. Proof that humanity wasn't fighting alone anymore. Your ship's abilities are remarkable, said Coverell, a towering insectoid whose crystalline exoskeleton caught the dim light. As leader of the Resistance Cell, she had personally vouched for the Resilience crew. Though some still question whether we can trust humans, given your species' history. Chen nodded, understanding the concern. Before the Dominion arrived, humanity's rapid expansion had caused conflicts with several alien civilizations. The Dominion made us all realize we had more in common than we thought. They don't want to rule the galaxy. They want to reshape it into their image of perfection. They entered what served as the Resistance's command center, where representatives from various species gathered around a holographic display. Dr. Santos was already there, her flickering form explaining something to a group of fascinated alien engineers. The Dominion's quantum lock technology is both their greatest strength and their greatest weakness, Santos was saying. They've achieved perfect efficiency, but at the cost of adaptability. That's why our phase-shifted attacks work. We're operating outside their rigid parameters. Yet your ship can't maintain normal space contact for long, observed Zixtal, a being of pure energy contained within an environmental suit. How do you propose to turn raids into real victory? Chen stepped forward. By teaching you how to do what we do. Dr. Santos has developed a way to temporarily phase-shift conventional ships using modified versions of our technology. We can't make them permanently quantum-shifted like the Resilient, but even brief shifts would be enough to bypass Dominion defenses. The announcement caused a stir among the gathered beings. Lieutenant Rivera, standing at a nearby console, pulled up tactical simulations showing how a coordinated attack using phase-shift technology could devastate Dominion forces. The materials needed are rare, Santos admitted, but every Dominion supply convoy we raid gives us more to work with. We've already started modifying some of your smaller ships for testing. Cavrill's compound eyes studied the simulations. The Dominion believes they've achieved perfection. Their quantum lock systems make them incredibly powerful, but perfection is static, Chen finished. And static things can't adapt to the unexpected. That's why they still haven't figured out how to detect us reliably. Their technology literally can't comprehend operating outside their established parameters. Commander, Lieutenant Kira called from her temporary communications station. We're picking up distress signals from the Arcturus sector. A Dominion fleet is attacking the mining colonies there. Chen turned to Coverell. Those colonies supplied critical materials to several resistance cells. The Dominion must have traced the supply lines. The insectoid leader chittered thoughtfully. This could be an opportunity to test your phase shift modifications in actual combat. We have 3 ships equipped with the prototype systems. It's risky, Santos warned. The modifications aren't as stable as what happened to the Resilient. They can only maintain phase shift for about 2 minutes before requiring a long cooldown period. 2 minutes is an eternity in space combat, Rivera pointed out, especially if the enemy can't see you coming. Chen studied the tactical display, showing the Dominion fleet's position. We'll need perfect timing and coordination between ships. One mistake and we lose more ships, Coverell interrupted. But we lose them anyway fighting conventionally. At least this way we have a chance of victory. The command center erupted in discussion as various resistance leaders debated the proposal. Chen watched them, remembering similar discussions on Earth before its fall. The same mix of fear and determination, the same need to believe in something that seemed impossible. The modified ships will follow your lead, Coverell announced finally. Show us how to hurt them, Commander. Show us how to make the Dominion fear what they can't control. Within hours, the Resilient led a small fleet of resistance ships toward the Arcturus sector. Chen stood on her bridge, watching the modified vessels fall into formation alongside them. Their hulls had been fitted with simplified versions of the phase shift technology, giving them a slight shimmer even in normal space. All ships reporting ready, Kira announced. Phase shift systems are charged and stable. Dr. Santos, status of the quantum signature masking. Holding steady, the engineer replied. As long as they maintain formation within our quantum wake, they'll be as invisible to Dominion sensors as we are. Chen took a deep breath, feeling the weight of not just her crew's trust, but that of their new allies. Send to all ships. The Dominion thinks they've achieved perfection. Today we show them the power of imperfection, of adaptation, of evolution. Today we show them why they should have made sure we were really dead. The small fleet accelerated toward their target, preparing to demonstrate that sometimes the most dangerous enemy isn't the strongest or most advanced. It's the one that refuses to follow the rules of what should be possible. The galaxy was about to learn why betting against human ingenuity was always a losing proposition. Breaking point. The battle for Arcturus unfolded unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. The Dominion fleet hung in orbit around the mining colony, their quantum-locked weapons ready to vaporize any conventional attack. They never saw the first strike coming. The Resilient materialized seemingly from nowhere, its quantum-shifted hull becoming just solid enough to launch a full spread of modified torpedoes. Behind it, 3 resistance ships phased into normal space for precisely 120 seconds, their weapons finding gaps in the Dominion's perfect defensive formations. Phase shift attack successful, Rivera reported, his fingers dancing across his tactical console. 2 Dominion cruisers critically damaged. They're still firing at our last known positions, but their targeting systems can't adjust fast enough. Chen watched as their small fleet executed the carefully planned assault. Phase in, strike, phase out. The Dominion's superior numbers meant nothing if they couldn't hit their targets. Resistance vessel Starweaver reports their phase shift system is overheating. Kira called out. They'll need 3 minutes to cool down before attempting another shift. Tell them to fall back into our quantum wake, Chen ordered. Dr. Santos, status of the enemy fleet. The engineer's hologram flickered with excitement. Commander, you need to see this. Their attempts to track us are causing cascading errors in their quantum-locked systems. They're actually damaging themselves trying to detect us. The tactical display showed the truth of her words. The Dominion ships' perfect formations were breaking down as their rigid systems struggled to cope with targets that shouldn't exist according to their fundamental programming. Multiple quantum core breaches detected in enemy vessels, Rivera announced. Their own power systems are destabilizing from the attempt to track multiple phase states simultaneously. Chen leaned forward. That's it. That's their fatal flaw. Their quest for perfection made them unable to process imperfection. Dr. Santos, can we exploit this? Already working on it, Santos replied, her form flickering faster as she divided her attention between multiple systems. If we can force them to track too many phase states at once, their entire command and control network could collapse. But victory wouldn't come easily. Even damaged and confused, the Dominion ships were incredibly dangerous. A lucky shot from one of their quantum disruptors caught the resistance ship Starweaver as it completed another attack run. Starweaver's phase shift system is completely offline, Kira reported tensely. They're stuck in normal space, position resilient between them and the enemy fleet, Chen commanded. Lieutenant Rivera, calculate a towing trajectory. We need tow. Commander, Santos interrupted. Massive power spike from the Dominion flagship. They're trying to quantum lock the entire sector of space. The stars themselves seemed to distort as the Dominion attempted to force reality itself to conform to their rigid parameters. The Resilient shuddered, its quantum-shifted state fighting against the artificial constraints being imposed around them. Hull integrity failing, Rivera warned. The space-time distortion is trying to force us into a single quantum state. Chen gripped her command chair as the ship groaned around them. Dr. Santos, what happens if they succeed? If they force us into normal space, we'd materialize inside our own quantum wake. The energy release would destroy us and everything nearby. Santos worked frantically at her station. But, Commander, they're drawing impossible amounts of power to maintain this effect. Their quantum cores are redlining. A plan formed in Chen's mind. They want to force everything to conform to their perfect order. Let's give them more chaos than they can handle. All ships, execute emergency pattern Delta. Full power to phase shift drives. The Resistance fleet responded instantly, their modified ships pushing their phase shift systems beyond safety limits. Instead of trying to maintain stable quantum states, they began rapidly shifting between multiple phases of reality. The effect on the Dominion fleet was catastrophic. Their quantum-locked systems, trying to track and contain hundreds of conflicting phase states, began to overload. Ships that had been designed to operate in perfect harmony with the quantum nature of space-time found themselves drowning in a sea of deliberate uncertainty. Enemy quantum cores are reaching critical levels, Santos reported, her voice tight with concentration. The feedback loop is, wait. Commander, look. The Dominion flagship's attempt to quantum lock space had backfired spectacularly. Its own rigid adherence to quantum perfection made it especially vulnerable to the chaos they'd unleashed. The massive vessel began to break apart, its structure torn between multiple states of reality. All ships, clear the sector, Chen ordered. Dr. Santos, what's about to happen? Their quantum cores are collapsing into every quantum state simultaneously. The energy release will be unprecedented. The Resilient led the surviving Resistance ships away from Arcturus as the Dominion fleet died in a display that defied conventional physics. Ships designed to exist in perfect quantum harmony were torn apart by their own inability to process quantum uncertainty. Hours later, Chen stood in the Resistance Command Center, explaining what they'd discovered to an astonished group of alien leaders. The Dominion's greatest strength is their greatest weakness, she concluded. Their technology requires everything to follow their rules, exist in their defined states. When faced with something that simply refuses to play by those rules, they cannot adapt, Cavrel finished. Their perfection makes them brittle. Exactly. And now we know how to break them. Chen gestured to the tactical display, showing the aftermath of the battle. We don't need to match their power. We just need to keep being what they hate most. Unpredictable, adaptable, imperfect. The victory at Arcturus changed everything. The Resistance had proof that the Dominion could be beaten, and better yet, they understood why. What had started as one ship's desperate gambit had evolved into a strategy that could win the war. The galaxy was about to learn an important lesson. Perfection isn't strength. The ability to adapt, to embrace chaos and uncertainty, that's what makes a species truly formidable. And humanity had just taught them how. Humanity's echo. The combined fleet of Resistance ships gathered at the edge of Dominion space, their hulls shimmering with modified phase shift technology. At their center, the U.S. Resilient hung like a ghost in the void, its quantum-shifted form a reminder of how far they'd come. Commander Chen surveyed the tactical display showing hundreds of vessels from dozens of species, all united by a single purpose. Status of the fleet's phase shift systems. All ships report ready, Lieutenant Rivera confirmed. Dr. Santos' improvements to the technology have extended their shift duration to 5 minutes with only 2 minutes of cooldown required. The Dominion has fortified their core systems. Covrel reported from her flagship. They've adapted their quantum lock technology, trying to account for phase-shifted attacks. Chen smiled slightly. But that's exactly what we wanted them to do. The more they try to perfect their defenses against us, the more vulnerable they become to quantum state cascade failure. The plan was audacious. After Arcturus, the Resistance had spent months studying the fundamental flaw in Dominion technology. Their obsession with quantum-locked perfection made them increasingly brittle when faced with quantum uncertainty. The more they tried to compensate, the worse the potential collapse would be. Dr. Santos, Chen called, begin transmission of the quantum destabilization codes. The engineer's hologram nodded. Broadcasting now. Every ship in the fleet is projecting the unique quantum signature, cycling through different phase states at random intervals. The Dominion sensors will try to track all of them simultaneously. All ships move to attack positions, Chen ordered. Remember your training. Don't maintain any single phase state for more than 30 seconds. Keep them guessing, keep them reaching for perfection, until that perfection breaks them. The Resistance fleet accelerated toward Dominion space. Ahead of them lay the most heavily defended systems in the galaxy, protected by technology that had seemed invincible just months ago. But that was before humanity showed the galaxy how to turn order into chaos. The first Dominion patrol ships detected them exactly as planned. Their response was immediate and massive. Hundreds of warships emerging from hyperspace in perfect formation, their quantum-locked weapons ready to enforce their version of reality. They're attempting to establish a quantum containment field, Santos reported. Much more sophisticated than what they tried at Arcturus. They're learning, but not fast enough. Chen responded. All ships, execute attack pattern chaos. Show them what we've learned about their perfect order. The Resistance fleet split into smaller groups, each one operating on different quantum frequencies, phasing in and out of normal space, seemingly at random. The Dominion fleet's rigid formation began to break as their systems struggled to track hundreds of targets existing in multiple states simultaneously. Enemy quantum cores showing signs of strain, Rivera called out. Their attempts to maintain quantum lock on multiple targets are causing power fluctuations. Chen watched as the massive Dominion ships tried to adapt to something their fundamental programming said was impossible. Push harder. Force them to track more states, more variations. Show them that their perfect universe isn't the only way reality can exist. The battle that followed defied conventional physics. Resistance ships flickered between dimensions, appearing just long enough to strike before vanishing again. The Dominion's superior numbers and technology meant nothing against an enemy that refused to play by their rules. Commander, Santos' voice carried a note of triumph. The cascade is starting. Their quantum-locked systems are failing across the entire fleet. The tactical display showed Dominion ships beginning to break apart as their own power systems turned against them. Their desperate attempts to maintain perfect quantum harmony in the face of deliberate chaos caused chain reactions that their rigid technology couldn't contain. Message from their flagship, Kira announced. They're requesting terms of surrender. The bridge fell silent. Chen stood from her command chair, looking out at the dying embers of what had once seemed an invincible empire. Put me through to all ships. When she spoke, her voice carried to every vessel in both fleets. This is Commander Sarah Chen of the U.S. Resilient. 3 years ago, the Dominion tried to destroy humanity because we didn't fit into their perfect vision of the galaxy. They saw our chaos, our adaptability, our imperfection as a threat to their order. She paused, watching as more Dominion ships powered down their quantum cores, choosing surrender over destruction. They were right. We are a threat to perfect order, because the universe isn't meant to be perfect. Life itself is chaos, adaptation, evolution. Today we prove that strength isn't found in perfection. It's found in the ability to change, to grow, to embrace the uncertainty that makes us all unique. The Resistance fleet regrouped around the Resilient, their modified hulls still shimmering with the technology that had turned the tide of war. They were no longer just survivors or rebels. They were the architects of a new galaxy, one where perfection wouldn't be enforced at the cost of diversity. From this day forward, Chen continued, let the galaxy remember that when one human warship refused to die, it sparked a revolution, not through superior power or technology, but by showing everyone that imperfection isn't weakness. It's the source of our greatest strength. Dr. Santos appeared beside Chen's chair, her holographic form steadier than ever. The quantum readings are stabilizing, Commander. The Dominion's network is completely collapsed. It's over. Chen nodded, feeling the weight of history around them. No, Doctor, it's just beginning. Now we get to show the galaxy what happens when we all work together, accepting our differences instead of trying to enforce uniformity. The Resilient hung in space, its quantum-shifted form, a testament to humanity's greatest gift to the galaxy. The proof that sometimes the most powerful force isn't perfection, but the willingness to embrace chaos and change. They had shown the galaxy that humanity's real strength wasn't in their technology or their weapons, but in their fundamental nature, their ability to adapt, to survive, and to turn their greatest weaknesses into unexpected strengths. The ghost ship that had haunted the Dominion's nightmares had become a beacon of hope, proving that in the end, the most dangerous thing in the universe isn't power or perfection. It's an idea that refuses to die. And humanity's ideas would echo through the galaxy forever.